Pause. You got lipstick on your teeth. That lipstick on my teeth? No? Okay, we're good.
Hi, welcome to Like Mother, Not Like Daughter podcast, where we share conversations of womanhood that bridge the gap from one generation to the next.
That's right. Our hope is that this podcast sparks honest conversations within families that will strengthen the family bond.
I like the way you do it, baby. Let's be honest about it. There's a way around it. I like the way you do it, baby. Let's be honest about it. There's a way around it. I like the way you.
I'm one of your hosts, Jim Rodriguez.
And I am Carolyn Little.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of Like Mother, Not Like Daughter. Okay, as we told you guys last time, this one right here. First of all, I needed something with this one. Okay, I needed a little something extra. I got coffee today. Okay, I needed some Java beans. I needed a little bit of Husa, a little bit of something that put a little pep in my step, but also calm me down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? For this topic right here. What you got? You still staying hydrated with that water?
Hydrated with some strawberries. Refreshing. That's me. Clink, clink. You got your
Clink.
coffee.
Boop. Hot and cold, cold and hot. We are talking about don't let her take, speaking of hot and cold, don't let her take your man. Lessons on dating and relationships. Now, let's note this. The title is really for like attention grabbing. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit of clickbait, but this episode is all about holding ourselves accountable in dating and relationships, as well as setting boundaries and holding others accountable to those boundaries as well. Now, mind you, when we wrote this, I didn't really understand that boundaries really is for you.
Yeah.
It's not just for like other people to know how to treat you. It's for you to know like what to allow and what not to allow. So most of this will be holding yourselves accountable. Okay?
Yes.
Now, before we get into it, we're going to go ahead and do a little quick PSA. We are both wearing the LXYRD collection cardigans. Okay.
Ow.
Ow. Whoa. LXYRD collection, y'all. Okay, I'm going to watch my volume, you guys, because we tried new mics and it's in a different place. I'm trying not to project too much, so my bad if it gets a little heated on this one, okay? Action.
Wow. After all of that, don't let her take your man. The three most important words in the title is let your man. Okay. There's an old saying that says that the grass is greener on the other side, but it's only greener when you don't water your own grass.
That's true.
We don't take care of what's happening in your house.
Facts. Okay. Now let's go ahead and just nip this in the bud right now.
Nip it.
It is a little different when it comes to dating versus married. Okay.
Yeah.
So dating, when you're in an exclusive relationship, obviously you're not seeing other people, you know, that type of thing. But when you're married, it's a whole other dynamic. Thing. We're talking covenant. Okay. Yeah. So for me, I might more so be talking about dating because that's the phase that I'm in. My mom had come from a marriage mindset, but again, with bridging those gaps and experiences and bringing it together, a lot of it applies to both. It really is just about how you treat people, how you respect yourself with your character and integrity, and how you're viewing the other person as a true son and daughter of God.
Correct.
Okay. So for me, I'm in a position where I'm putting like decision making back into like dating.
Right.
And not just letting things happen and letting things flow so much. Okay, so I am learning that there is power in saying no or not right now.
Right.
So don't wait until marriage to change your mind. You definitely want to use that dating experience to observe signs right away and just move accordingly with those signs.
Right.
And to do it, nip it in the bud as soon as possible. So I actually saw a TikTok of a girl who had a friend. And this girl was able to just date, and she's been dating for I don't know how long. She hasn't been married yet. At least as far as I know, but she's been dating and she doesn't have or seem to have an ounce of trauma when it comes to the dating experience. And I got curious because I'm like, I got all types of trauma, and I really don't have like that lengthy of a dating experience. My ex-husband was my first actual boyfriend. Yeah. So I take dating very seriously. I don't date you unless I see myself with you. Okay. But even then, there are times where maybe you see things and you almost are loyal to a fault and you shouldn't continue, but you do it anyway. And that's just a whole other conversation. Well, I guess that is this conversation.
That is this
Hold
conversation.
yourself accountable.
Yes, it is.
Sorry. But anyway, I saw this TikTok of this girl and she was able to date without trauma. And her friend was like, why? How? What? Give me the cliff notes. Like how? Where's the book? What's the chapter, boo? Okay, how do we get to the place where we date without trauma?
Right.
And basically her secret was she didn't hang around if she saw the signs and it wasn't a good fit. She just let it go. So that really taught me that we have to hold ourselves accountable to our own decisions, not someone else's behavior,
right?
But what has been our threshold and what we truly allow.
Yeah.
Why are we wired that way and why do we allow certain things? What can we do to unlearn that trait so that we're able to make healthy decisions going forward prior to marriage?
Yeah. I think sometimes it's just pride. On both sides.
Ego,
pride and ego, and everybody wants to hold on to, on to each other. Yeah. Don't want to let each other go. Sometimes it's pride on both ends. Don't want to let go, and sometimes it's just even, I'm just going to show the other person, I'm going to keep the other person to show the other person. And here's the good one. You're trying to change someone.
That's the big one.
That's the big one. If I stay with this person long enough, they will change or I will help them change. Right. And that is the biggest mistake that you can make to stay in a relationship. Now, does the other person change? Of course they do. They might. But just to stay in a relationship, just to prove that you're going to change that person is not a good thing. Proverbs 18:22 says, when a man finds a wife, he finds, number one, a good thing. And then number two, there's favor from God. So communication well, hurt feelings, not sure if this hurts, bitterness, resentment, bad feelings, easier said than done. All of those things sometimes may mess up that favor that you find from God when he allow you to find a wife. So dating to me is you're dating with purpose. You're just not dating just to like the girl, did on TikTok. She was dating but without drama, because if this ain't gonna work, okay, there's a sign. I don't have to continue this. Yeah. I don't have to continue to fix you. I don't have to continue to go through this. So let's just break this off and let's just halt it and let's just move on. I like those red flags. Yeah. I like when you see those red flags early and you just keep it moving. If you can't come to a decision or a conversation where we can work through those red flags. And again, we take that back to pride.
We do.
Take it back to pride.
I think that the thing that I'm really focusing on and keeping in mind is that whether I'm in a committed relationship or not, whether I'm married to them or not, I belong to Christ. That man belongs to Christ first. He's not my possession. He is a full-on human being with his own journey and his own likes, dislikes, childhood trauma, like all those things are all his. And it's up to him to choose to invite me on that journey with him. I'm not going to sit around and wait for someone to choose me on that or try to enforce myself into someone's, life or force it to fit. You know what I mean? It's their decision. And I actually saw this other TikTok be preaching sometimes, but this one guy said, when it comes to dating and relationships or whoever, why are you 9 times out of 10 women? Why are you like devastated that this guy went and did something with his private part with somebody else? That's his private part. Why does that to where you're not eating? You're not sleeping? Like, how does anybody have that so much of a hold on you to where when they do something that obviously is wrong? Okay, well, why does that devastate you to the point where you're not eating for months or eating for days or eating? Like, why are you investing so much into it and not keeping in mind that this person is a whole other human being who's going to make their own mistakes? And it doesn't mean that you don't walk away. Walk away. Just be done.
What did you say? Private parts?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because you went through that so fast. I was like, did she say private parts?
I did.
Because if you're in a relationship with someone and you're using your private parts to go do something else, is that
I'm not
what you
saying
said?
you should. Yeah, I'm not saying that anybody should. or should. That is absolutely wrong. But basically, if somebody cheats on you,
there you go,
and they did something wrong, and they lied, they cheated, they deceived, all that stuff. Not that it wouldn't hurt, but why does it devastate you so much? Like, why do you invest so much, or even this? Why do you put that action so much back on yourself to where you feel like it's your fault, or like you know what I'm saying?
This is what, you keep saying this one word, and I think that this is the key to this conversation is investment. Now, if I date someone for 90 days or 60 days and you decide to go cheat or whatever, okay, I can let you go. This is just a 90-day thing. We still trying to learn each other. But if I have invested my time, my resources, my emotions in you, and we're talking about a year, maybe 2 years, then that's a whole different situation.
I totally agree.
You probably can't walk away from that as easy if you could if you were just like in a 90-day relationship with somebody. So I think the investment part is the key, because if I've invested in you and you go cheat, that's a whole different level than, like I said, a 90-day relationship, and I really haven't invested that much in you in 90 days. So I can walk away and be hurt, though. But it's like, man, dang, okay.
But that was early.
But again, that was early. That was good. Didn't work out. But if we're going to go take this thing like, a year or two, the key is investment. So I think the more you invest in a person, and if they cheat, yes, there's going to be some, I don't believe this happened to me.
There's going to be some healing with that.
Some healing with that.
And that's why I think context is important, because you hear those types of things and you feel like you should be so strong within yourself that it doesn't matter what people do to you. But when there is relationship, and this is why you have to hold yourself accountable and why you have to really vet and be honest during that dating process, is because there is investment. And you may act like there's not. You may be cruising along, but there is investment. Whether it's time, there's, like you said, there's feelings, there's hope, there's money, there's memories. You're creating memories with someone. And to that young lady's point, if you just know that it's not a good fit for whatever the reason, you don't necessarily owe anybody the grandest explanation, but at least be honest. So why does it take, and honestly, this was like a prior thought, but it was like, why does it take getting married and divorced to know whether or not you even want to be married? And I think that what we're facing now is a lot of people are really identifying whether or not, and they still date, mind you, but they're even identifying whether or not they even want to be married. I think marriage is sometimes, we treat it, especially like in the younger generation, we treat it as something that we have to kind of do to know whether or not we want it. Not that we don't take it seriously. I don't think that anybody sets out to get divorced. But I think that some people are like, well, at least I got married. Well, you know what I'm saying? At least I'm married. And it's almost treated like a status as opposed to a purpose-filled covenant with somebody that you are doing life with. And of course, everybody's spirituality is different and everybody sees it differently. But I think that we have to have accountability to ourselves to strengthen our own weak spots or blind spots prior to marriage, because the idea is that you don't want to get divorced. You want to have a lasting relationship that evolves over time.
That's a covenant, not a contract.
It's a covenant, not a contract. And plus now we have so many choices. And I want to ask you this, because you were married to Dad for a long time and you guys went through a lot of different phases in life. And I feel like what I'm seeing now more than ever is people just growing apart. And Sarah Jakes Roberts said something so good that I resonate with. And she said, well, if my husband, and it's not that you don't have a sense of identity, but she's so committed to growing with him that, hey, if he's reading a book on investments, then I guess I better read a book on investments too. Like, I guess that's what we're doing, right? Like, as a family, he's interested in something, then I want to at least have a pulse. I want to show some interest in what he's interested in, and vice versa. And if he's growing in an area and maybe like really going after finances, then it's not that he doesn't invite her into that, but if she notices that, she's like, well, shoot, he ain't gonna not be able to talk to me about something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make sure that I'm not necessarily keeping up with him, but that I'm keeping up with him. And so how do you feel about, like, just as time goes on, people evolving and changing, how do you navigate those changes long term to still be compatible but also keep your identity? I think that sometimes is the balance when it comes to long-term relationships.
I think, like, it's an investment, number one. number two is that you do have to show interest. Now, like there were some things that your dad was just really over the top about, you know, just had to do, had to read or whatever. I didn't feel I had to read that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But if I saw him pick up a book that really didn't interest me, I was like, man, the title looks good. Tell me about the book. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of piqued to know that I'm realizing you're reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, tell me what you're getting from the book. I don't have to read the book. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure there was things, the interest that I had that didn't interest him at all either. Mm-hmm. But he would at least say, hey, tell me about what you're reading or why'd you choose that book or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But the other thing is with relationships, from the beginning, I think you have to always say this, define what's happening here after a certain period of time. Mm-hmm. What are we doing? Where are we going? And how are we going to get there? Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's what this generation kind of lacks sometimes is communication. Yeah. They don't want to communicate the hard things. They want to go, okay, sarah, whatever will be. No, it's not. You got to communicate about your finances, communicate about children. Like, where are we going with this? Where are we going to be like in 10 years? Do you even see me with you? I don't have a problem. And this is some of the things me and your dad talked about before we got married. I didn't have a problem asking him, like, do you see me as wifey material? Mm-hmm. You know, do you see me as being your wife? Because if we're just dating and we're just doing this, then, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to figure this out. You don't have to go a whole year to figure out if I want to be your wife or not. Yeah. Because you're not going to really learn a person until you live with them. I don't care how much you try to figure this thing out. If when you live with them, married and live with them, that's when you're really going to find out who that person really is.
That's a little scary.
Yeah, it is a little
scary.
It's
like you try to test as much as you can. You try to know as much as you can before you make the decision. But that is why you got to take it to the one who knows.
Yes, the Lord.
That is why I personally will never again date or even talk about certain phases of dating or even get involved with somebody who does not truly see God as their source and their maker and as their savior. Because for me personally, I've tried it at this point like probably 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And every single time, it comes to a head and it comes to a divide of that spirituality. It's like I see myself growing in a certain direction. And maybe at the time that we connect, I'm struggling with that. And so this is fun. This is cool. This is new. I'm trying to like be the cool girl. You know what I'm saying? I'm a cool mom. I'm trying to go with the flow. I'm trying to, do the new thing or whatever. But then after a while, it's like, okay, I'm a purpose-filled person. Yeah. That is a legacy that my dad started. And that's something that he's always expressed. He wants me to have in a marriage or in a partner, as someone who is not only a good problem solver, but someone who truly loves me, respects me, and has a relationship with God. Because he's the only one who truly knows whether or not that person is sustainable long term. Yes. So,
and it's the same thing for a woman.
Absolutely.
She has to have her own personal relationship with the Lord too first. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because there's going to come a time in a relationship and in a marriage where you have to see God for yourself first. Absolutely. In certain areas. So
And we talked about that. Like, if you haven't seen our last episode when it came to like emotions and how to manage emotions, we talked about how your relationship with God and that vulnerability sometimes can help act as a filter. Yeah. So that you can really go to God and say, okay, Lord, this is your son. Yeah. How do I handle this situation with your son?
That's the truth.
I can call his mama, but only God really knows. You know what I mean?
God will
I
give you
can call
that
his
wisdom.
daddy, but God will give you that wisdom to say, you know what? Don't get too emotional about this.
Right.
You're overreacting a little bit about this. I know my son. Give it a little time. Yes. Let's just, you know what I mean? And sometimes, or you know what? Now's the time. So just having that pulse, God will work with you.
All the time.
But if that's missing in your own individual lives and you never really bring that element into it, I'm telling you, no matter how great you think your marriage is, you're really missing out on that long-term sustainability. Because if he doesn't like divorce, he will help ensure that you keep that connection, that you keep that fire, that you keep that going, and he'll give you the strength and the grace to do it. Yeah. That's my belief anyway.
So
whatever.
Yes. I mean, but that's good though. That's really good. So let's dive into some hot topics and see where we can bridge the gap. Mm-hmm. Because it's important that we walk away understanding more about each other regarding these topics, but it also gives us confidence outlook on building our own ideas.
All right. So,
so here we go. You want me to take this one? I'm going to ask you this one. Now, you have a bestie, right? And then all of a sudden you start feeling for your bestie, you're liking each other. Sometimes they have besties. They've been besties for a while. How do you let that bestie know that you want to date them? Like, how would you say you've been a bestie for years and all of a sudden you're getting these feelings for each other? And then they do say sometimes, like, you become best friends first before you become husband and wife, before you start dating. So how would you let your bestie know?
Where did this question come from?
Well, I'm just saying, it's a hot topic.
I guess that is.
You know what? People want to know.
It's a hot topic. And just so y'all know, with these hot topics, we pull them from the internet.
All the time.
Sometimes my mom does research. She's a researcher. So sometimes she's pulled these hot topics. I don't even know what's going on. This is one of those times. I don't know. I think that from a woman's standpoint, it can be nerve-wracking to let a bestie know, or someone that you feel like you have a good friendship with, to let them know, like, hey, I'm having feelings for you in these ways, like a romantic way. Have you ever thought about that? Like, it's hard because there's that feeling of rejection that nobody ever wants to feel, whether you're man or woman. I think men kind of men kind of take I tried to do it as cute as I could. Men usually take the brunt of that rejection. Yeah. And I gotta give the props up to the men out there, because nowadays, the fact that, some of them want to get chose and they want to be the one to get pursued and all that stuff, like, I can't even think about mustering up the courage to drop into somebody's DMs and mustering up the courage. Like, y'all have some courage and some strength. But I guess you're built that way. So maybe, whatever. But kudos to you, because that is hard to do. But I think that there's that element of rejection that you might feel that can be hard. And I think that there's also just fear that the relationship will change and that it won't ever be able to go back to what it was. Now, I personally think that starting off as friends is a great way to really learn each other. And I think it's almost harder when you have those feelings, and you still try to pursue friendship. So I would say that, to be honest, as soon as possible. I think that there's a time and a place, obviously, if they're dating someone else, or maybe just got fresh out of a relationship, or maybe they say they're not ready, or whatever it is. Like, there's just a time and place to bring it up. I think there's wisdom behind that. But I do think that that's a great way to start a relationship as friends, because usually you're able to really get to know each other, your likes, your dislikes, where they're at, with their relationship with God, where you're at with your relationship with God, and are you really as strong as you feel like you should be or could be to be the best that you can for that person. So I think that there is a blessing in starting off as friends and having a really strong friendship
I think
with
so
someone.
Too.
But as far as initiating that conversation, I don't know, baby, take it to Jesus.
Take the wheel. Take the wheel.
I don't know. I think when the time is right, God will give you the opportunity
and the words
to say, if that's something, especially from a female's perspective, if that's something he wants you to lead, or if he's leading through that man to talk to you. But I am team, I'm team put it out there and see what happens. But sometimes that's bit me in the butt. So I don't know if I'm team that anymore, but I don't know, girl, be bold about it. Ain't nothing wrong with at least putting it out there.
You gotta find out.
But I mean, that's the best way to find out.
Because you don't want to keep being the bestie. Because you want to be something else.
You don't want to stay in the friend zone if that's not where you're trying to be.
And that's for both male and female.
That's true.
For the male and the female. He might want to stay in the friend zone either. You know what I'm saying? He might want to approach you, because the Bible does says when a man finds a wife, and so he might want to approach you and say, "Hey, we've been friends, and I'm catching these emotions for you." So, I think it goes both ways.
It does. Yes. So, Mom, you have been married. So, how do you bring up difficult topics in a relationship? So, first of all, we kind of talked about knowing when to walk away, and not necessarily using the investment that you made as an excuse to stay and take abuse or disrespect, but that they're a good man, or that they're a good woman. And there's just some difficult topics that you're trying to bring up. How do you bring those up in a way that's tactful, respectful, but still gets your point across?
I think the atmosphere is everything. I really do. And learning that from being married to your dad. Like if he's had a bad day at work, that's not a good time.
You said atmosphere, and I thought candles.
No.
Okay,
I think if if your dad came in from work and it was something I want to discuss with him, it's like, okay, this is just not a good time.
Yeah.
Let him chill, do what he got to do.
That's a word.
And then, let him kind of relax a little bit. And then I'll see if it's good to bring it up today or should I just hold this until tomorrow. And I think that sometimes we just think that it's like, we just got to get it out today. I just got to get this topic out today. Like we just really got to talk about this today. But, wisdom says that there's a time for everything.
It does.
And so you can't, again, I think the atmosphere, is it the right time? Yeah. And then you want to make sure that you really say the right thing. For me, when I was going to bring up a difficult topic to your dad, I would always say, is this the right time? And then I would write down what I want to say. I want to write it down. I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly. God give me wisdom in saying this. And then I would approach him.
I have to ask, because I'm a visual person, did you bring the paper out when you...
Sometimes, look, sometimes it calls for you to bring that paper out. I want to bring this out so I can stay on point with what I'm bringing up, and then I would bring the paper out. Here's the issue here's another thing that me and your dad worked through, which I just appreciated our marriage so much, is that bringing up a difficult situation or a difficult topic, we would say before, again, the atmosphere is set, this is what's going to happen. So I want to discuss something with you. For the next 2 minutes, please don't interrupt me. Please listen to what I'm saying.
Okay.
Listen, have listening ears to what I'm saying, and then we can discuss how you feel when I'm done.
That's
so therefore, there's no interrupting. There's no this, and then I always would tell your dad, now listen to Jennifer. Okay, see, you can't be doing that.
Let's just go ahead and interject real fast. I broke the 2-minute rule of not interrupting, but this is something I'm learning, is that your face is a nonverbal communicator.
It is. I can't with you.
And I would try to let the other party talk and finish, but my face would say everything that I needed to say, and I would just still talk without talking. And it's hard to do, but as women, especially if we feel like they're misunderstanding what we're saying or what we're doing, it's like we're all of a sudden on the defense. And I just wanted to put that note out there because I noticed myself doing that while you were talking, so I apologize.
Okay. Let me just finish this, wrap this up real quick. So as I would ask your dad to listen, I would ask him to listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying, not listen so that you give me your response quickly. So don't, while I'm saying this, don't think in your mind, well, she said this, and I'm going to say this, and then, okay, she said that, I'm going to say this. No, just listen. Have an open ear to what I'm really saying. And I think that's how we got through a lot of our challenges, and it worked out. But again, there was rebuttal. I listen to you, listen to me, and then this is what I'm feeling. But sometimes we can listen with emotion and not really hearing what the other person is saying. So that's where I think that when you take that 2-minute or 5-minute or whatever, just listen to what I'm saying, eventually they'll tune into what you're really saying.
Yeah.
And not so much as to the response that they're going to give you. So that's one way to bring up that's how we did in our marriage. That's how we brought up many different topics. Now, did that always work? No. It comes with maturity. Then it comes to, okay, we've tried this 10,000 times already with me interrupted. Let me just listen to these 2 minutes and see what's going to happen.
And I think that's the key, is to think of the resolve.
Yeah.
The resolve isn't to necessarily be right or wrong, or to change the other person or change their mind.
Right.
And of course, if it's an issue, then I hope that you do change because it's an issue.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I remember when I was at work, and I do relate work to relationships a lot, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that's where I really grew in my communication, was during my job. And I remember there was a time where I had a really, really tough time communicating with a peer, another manager. And every time that we would try to resolve something, it came into like, well, this is my idea, well, this is my idea, well, this is my idea. And at some point, it was like, all right, at some point, we have to stop like strategizing the entire time
Come up with a
and
solution.
have a power struggle
Yeah.
over what's about to happen. At some point, we have to come to a resolve.
Yes.
And what is the resolve? What's the end result? And sometimes I'll have to stop and say, okay, let's just keep in mind we are both on the same team.
There you go. That's
we both
the key.
want to win.
Yes, we're
We
on the
both-
same team.
We're on the same team here.
Yes.
We both want to win.
Yes.
We both want to make each other happy.
Yes.
We love each other. Like, I love you, you love me.
Yes.
You know, we have a great fit. Like, at the end of the day, just don't take everything that I'm saying and put it through the filter of your emotion or your pride or your
Right.
ego or your trauma or whatever it is. Just hear, like you said, hear what I'm saying and know that I'm
Yes.
coming from a place of I'm on your team.
That's the
We're
biggest
on the
thing. Yes,
same
we're on the
team,
same
And
team.
we want to resolve this so that we can move forward and to continue to have a positive experience with
Yes.
each other. So I think that if you, and those are great tips, I think with the 2-minute thing of
Yeah,
just
at least
giving
2
me-
minutes.
At least 2 minutes, just give me space without interruptions
Yes.
to just say how I feel. And sometimes even talking it out, you can even resolve some of your own
Yeah.
things and not being embarrassed
Yes.
or afraid to prepare in advance if there's something you want to say. There are times I've even thinking about just with conversations that I've had with people, I wish I had wrote things down
yeah.
and not be ashamed to say, look, I got this paper, because I want to make sure that I'm clear and that, you know, I'm not too emotional, that I don't, you know, drag on like I am right
Right.
now. And that I, so yeah, just basically being able to say, hey, we're on the same team,
Yeah.
but let me let it out and not interrupt. Just be respectful with those difficult conversations.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now here's our last question.
Yes.
How can we let go of the past issues that we are still hurting, that are still hurting us now? How can you let go of those past issues that are still hurting us now?
While in a relationship?
While in a relationship.
You know, that is, first of all, just know that it's okay to have things that you're still dealing with
Yeah.
while in a current relationship.
Yeah.
Now, if you moved a little hasty and got in a relationship and you really had a bunch of issues that you were dealing with,
Yeah, that's
well,
something
then
different.
you may need to take a step back and focus on yourself for a second.
Right.
In order for the relationship to get better or to even identify if this is the relationship that you want.
Correct.
And I think overall, I think honesty is key. But if you are truly working through something on your own and you're, you know, taking the space to do that, I think that you can let go of past issues by addressing them. I think
Yeah.
that you can let go of past issues, especially if they're still hurting you now, by seeking therapy, by your friends and family, people you can trust.
Yep.
And if you trust your partner and you want to let them into that journey, then that's a beautiful thing. I don't think that you should hide anything from anybody necessarily, but I do think that, for example, if I'm dealing with the grief of my dad and I just met somebody, I might not necessarily invite them on that journey. And that's not necessarily a past hurt, but it did happen in the past.
Yeah.
But let's say I'm just like still, you know, dealing with my divorce or dealing with something else. But, you know, I know that relationship's over, but I'm still dealing with certain hurts from that. I may not necessarily invite that new person in to help me with my healing journey from that right away. I may still just deal with it with my close family friends, with my therapist, and just put into practice things that aren't going to hinder that relationship. And is it okay to enter new relationships when you still have things that you're kind of dealing with? It can be, but it could also be a distraction from your healing too. So I think that there's timing with that, and it just depends on the relationship of the person that you're with. But definitely you cannot expect that person to solve those issues for you. You know what I mean? I can't expect someone new to come in and heal those things for me.
No,
like those are
have already taken care of those healing steps before you try to enter into a new relationship as much as you can.
Exactly.
You know, as much as you can. So I think from this we've learned that, you know, communication, setting again that safe space, having time to talk, and man, you got to recognize you're on the same team.
Recognize you're on the same team.
You have to bring up those things. Recognize you're on the same team.
Now here's a quick thing with that, because I know the battery's getting low, y'all. So I know my mom
Battery's
judging me
getting
just a
low.
little bit. She judged me just a little bit.
Wrap this
I'm
up.
aware, but I have to say this because just from experience,
And why is that battery getting low? Oh no.
The judgment is real.
But it's a safe space.
Is it?
It's a safe space.
Is it? Okay, no. So the thing is that one thing I've learned just from being in marriage before and other relationships I've had is that is why it's important to both of you really be aligned in the things of God, especially if you are a Christian.
That's important.
Woman, because you don't want to enter into a marriage where you're saying you're on the same team, but I'm bringing one football manual on how to, play this game, and you're bringing a whole nother football manual on how to play this thing. There's a soccer football, and then there's normal football.
Yeah.
Right? So you're bringing two different playbooks into the situation, and you think you guys are on the same team, but life happens. The enemy throws things at you. Your kids start going crazy. Baby mama, baby daddy, others start going in. And if you guys are not operating from the same playbook, and you guys are not operating from the same word, and you're not operating from the same God, like, how can you really deal with life's issues?
That's where premarital coaching comes in.
That's huge, obviously.
Yeah.
But even just during the dating process, before you even get to that point, put those things into practice now. It's okay in your dating relationship to pray with each other when you're dealing with those difficult conversations, when you're trying to decide where the relationship should go. Invite God in now. There's no harm in that. You don't have to wait till you get married. And I would encourage you not to wait till you get married.
Definitely don't do that.
To do things like that together. There are times where I look back on my dating relationships and I really wish we had just grabbed hands, just prayed.
Yeah.
And then you get to see if they're pulling away and they're like, ooh, I don't know if I really want to do this. Then how can two come together unless they agree?
Well, if they're pulling away, then
that tells you a lot.
That tells you a whole lot, because they shouldn't be pulling away if they already said they were in a relationship with the Lord.
That says a lot. So long story short, every phase of dating has a purpose, right? So just live in that purpose, allow God to lead you, work together, and if it's not working and it's not a good fit, don't be afraid to walk away and embrace the season that God has you in and give you something new and better.
Very good.
Yes.
Breathe in some love and let yourself unfold.
Each episode we end with affirmations we can all focus on around this topic. We all know affirmations help set the intention to our day and our week, so feel free to add these as a part of your daily routine. I am loved and chosen by God.
I am valued and valuable.
I seek wisdom to deal with others.
That's a good one. I am who I am and who God says I am.
I am enough.
Yes. Hallelujah. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Like Mother, Not Like Daughter podcast. We hope that this conversation will help you bridge the gap from one generation to the next in your family.
We look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Don't touch my hair. Lessons on creating your own beauty standards. But in the meantime, continue to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and Instagram. You can listen to the recap of this episode and all episodes on all podcast platforms.
That's right.
Until next time,
have a great day.
I like the way you do.